pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In the name of God, Amen. We, whose names are underwritten, the loyal subjects of our dread sovereign Lord King James, by the grace of God, of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, King, Defender of the Faith, etc., having undertaken for the glory of God and advancement of the Christian faith, and the honor of our King and country, a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia, do by these presents, solemnly and mutually, in the presence of God and one another, covenant and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic, for our better ordering and preservation, and furtherance of the ends aforesaid, and by virtue hereof do enact, constitute, and frame such just and equal laws, ordinances, acts, constitutions, and officers, from time to time, as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, unto which we promise all due submission and obedience. In witness whereof we have hereunto subscribed our names at Cape Cod, the 11th of November, in the reign of our sovereign Lord King James, of England, France, and Ireland, the 18th, and of Scotland the 54th, Anno Domini, 1620.
The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I called to the Lord who is worthy of praise, and I have been saved from my enemies. The cords of death entangled me, the torrents of destruction overwhelmed me, the cords of the grave coiled around me, the snares of death confronted me. In my distress I called to the Lord. I cried to my God for help. From his temple he heard my voice. My cry came before him into his ears. The earth trembled and quaked, and the foundations of the mountains shook. They trembled because he was angry. Smoke rose from his nostrils. Consuming fire came from his mouth. Burning coals blazed out of it. He parted the heavens and came down. Dark clouds were under his feet. He mounted the cherubim and flew. He soared on the wings of the wind. He made darkness his covering, his canopy around him. the dark rain clouds of the sky. Out of the brightness of his presence, clouds advanced with hailstones and bolts of lightning. The Lord thundered from heaven. The voice of the Most High resounded. He shot his arrows and scattered the enemy. With great bolts of lightning he routed them. The valleys of the sea were exposed, and the foundations of the earth laid bare at your rebuke, Lord, at the blast of breath from your nostrils. He reached down.
Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to American Advocates. This should be episode 198, coming to you guys live on Thursday, August 27th, 2026. And it is important to state the obvious here, or what should be the obvious and what we should always fight for to remain the obvious, and that is that privacy is not a selfish want or desire here in America. Privacy is what we consider to be a natural right that every single American should have, and therefore every single American should crave it. That's what I'm going to be talking about tonight for the most part, alongside, of course, President Donald Trump renaming the Gulf of Ontario to the Gulf, or not the Gulf of Ontario, the Lake Ontario to Lake America, similarly to how he did this last year with the Gulf of Mexico being renamed to the Gulf of America. That's going to be a little bit later on for tonight's episode, and I don't even really want to dive into that topic for the purposes of moral fagging on it like a lot of the liberal mainstream media is going to do. I actually want to use that news today about Trump renaming it to Lake America to point to something more glaring, or something that should be more glaringly obvious when it comes to MAGA and the Republicans, but it isn't. The response to Trump renaming the lake is basically what you should be focusing on. The devil lies in the details there. MAGA is losing its grip. MAGA is falling out of touch and losing its popularity, and that's what I'm going to get into on the back end of tonight's episode. But I want to get into flock cameras tonight. Again, flock has been trending on and off for a month, and obviously on this channel I've been focused on a lot of geopolitical events taking place. Even tonight I was almost going to talk about the fact that Israel seems to have bombed Damascus. So things are still taking place over there, but I'm going to take a break from that tonight. We're gonna ignore the Middle East here on this channel for tonight. Take a deep breath, talk about domestic issues right here in America, and I can't think of a better topic than flock, especially because a lot of news came out today about flock. A lot of statements have been made, and really, we are looking at essentially flock cameras and the looming AI surveillance state coming down upon us. The time is here in America. Surveillance state at our doorstep. Will it be ushered in or will it be denied? We're going to get into all of that and a little more right here on American Advocates. So please be sure to like the stream. You guys should be doing that by instinct at this point. The first thing you should do when you come into my stream here at American Advocates is double tap your phone screen if you're watching on the vertical live feed on your cell phone, or if you're watching on a horizontal feed, find the thumbs up button and tap that thumbs up button for me and so you can like the stream. That is free to do. It's literally free, and it supports the channel tremendously so when you do it. It signal boosts YouTube to push this live show out further into the algorithm for more people to stumble across it, more people who need to see the truth, the actual truth of what's going on. So like the stream, and be aware I am streaming in two formats. If you're watching on a cell phone and you want a swine chat, goy chat-like experience, you may want to click on my channel and click on the YouTube Shorts vertical live feed. It comes with a different chat because the algorithm is more expansive for that format. But if you're watching on a television, tablet, or computer, I am streaming on a horizontal format, which is much better for full screen viewing, and that has a different chat too. It doesn't get pushed out that second stream to the algorithm as much, so it winds up being a quieter experience. Oftentimes the chat though is filled with smarter people. A lot more of my regular viewers tend to be in that one, and I do try to prioritize that chat because they deserve it. So either way, watch it however you want. Like the stream, that's what matters, and subscribe if this is not your first time being here to American Advocates for more content like this, and turn on post notifications so you're notified every single time I go live, which is most nights of the week. We're going to get into this though. AI, flock cameras, all of it. And before I do, obviously, there were two super chats that came in. Super chat tariffs paid in full to balance out the chat deficit of stupidity ahead of time, one in the horizontal feed and another in the vertical. I'll just read those real quick. Always got to recognize those. $2 super chat tariff coming in from the Black Sun over on the horizontal feed. And he says, Gulf of America is cool, but Canadians are white. Thumbs down. With 3 likes to that. I can sort of agree. We'll get to that at the tail end of this stream. I can sort of agree with you there. A part of me says fuck Canada, though, to be frank with you. But I understand the sentiment, and I thank you for the $2 super chat tariff. And then over in the vertical stream, we actually have 2 super chats that came in. Beck Fan for $2, a founding member on this channel, and one of the guys responsible for helping me come up with some content for the pre-show you guys get to watch every night before I go live. He says, work tomorrow. Keep it up. Need new bumps. Appreciate that a lot. And then the Waits Experience, one of my moderators. Good to see Law and Order in the chat. Thank you for the $1 super chat tariff, the Waits Experience. I appreciate that. Like Michael Cox would always say, I might be able to buy a stick of gum now. So I appreciate those guys. Seriously, thank you. All right, let's get into this though. I started off tonight's episode with that Fourth Amendment reading because really, that is what we need to keep in mind when it comes to Flock. It is an utter violation of our Fourth Amendment rights. No searches or seizures. They should not be tracking us in our day-to-day lives without a warrant. And that is very openly and brazenly what Flock cameras threaten to do or allow for. And here's my problem with all of this, truthfully. My biggest issue with what we're seeing with Flock is that the looming AI surveillance system in America being set up has been forcing the Republicans and Democrat Party alike to now strategize around this topic for both what is the coming 2026 midterm elections, and also, for that matter, this will be another topic to be discussed again and rehashed in 2028. And the reality is, like with the other 3 most important topics currently being discussed at the populist level here in America, the Democrats are also picking up on this one and running away with the winning narrative. And that's a problem if you're a conservative. Not only have the Democrats managed, in my opinion, to bag the 2 easy topics, these were the layup topics that have basically just been thrown up in the air for the slam dunk by the Republicans to the Democrats. Those ones would be anti-Iran war, obviously, and the Democrats are going to figure that out and run off of that to some degree. They're going to have somewhat of a hard time with the anti-Iran war rhetoric because many of the sitting U.S. Congress members who are Democrats are just as bought and paid for by Israel lobbies like AIPAC as the Republicans are, and in some cases more so because throughout the history of AIPAC, they have funded typically Democrats more than Republicans because 70 to 80% of American Jews vote Democrat here in America. So that's a tough one, but they have figured this out, and they are going to criticize Trump on the Iran war because it's an easy layup. Can you trust them to be anti-Iran war? Not really. Not when there's all that money, AIPAC money floating around for them to grab onto, but they'll still criticize it, and it's an easy win. The other topic that's been an easy one for them has been cost of living, of course, which has not only not improved under President Donald Trump, but in some ways has gotten worse. So bad Trump is importing all the beef from Argentina, so bad that now they're trying to focus on the economy with just about 68 days left to midterm elections. So they're now trying to focus on it, but it's too little too late, and the Democrats are going to win on the economy. Very straight up, that's how it is. And every preliminary poll suggests this already. Trump has lost all credibility with the economy on behalf of the Republicans. Those were the 2 easy ones. Now, what we're watching with the Democrat Party beyond the easy ones, and typical ones, anti-war and pro-economy, pro-economic populism, those are typical. Both parties should be striving to run on both of those narratives, no matter what anyway, to be fair. But what the Democrat Party has been displaying is a great aptitude, in my opinion, on picking up what are the most controversial topics that are quickly becoming, and in my opinion already are, zeitgeists for the Gen Z and millennial generations. Those 2 topics are, of course, Israel and AI. The Democrats are pulling ahead on both of these. I've already gone over in great detail on prior episodes the fact that the Democrats have picked up on the whole anti-Israel hunger in the young generations, hunger for anti-Israel candidates, hunger for the candidates that will say no to world Jewry and big Jewish money. And the Democrats aren't technically even those kind of people, but because of this Iran war and because of the obvious complaints taking place centered around that, the obvious usury going on in our crumbling economy, it all comes together now to paint this picture. And now with social media exposing all of Israel's actions with Gaza and Palestine and the genocides going on over there very blatantly, it is an easy win again. And Republicans, of course, will never side with that because they are completely cucked to the Zionist regime, completely so. Republicans are the demographic, they are the political affiliated party. They're the side of the aisle that attracts all of the nutjob evangelical dispensationalist right-wing Christians who will come in and insist that this all has to happen so that the Jews can build their third temple. So the Republicans are really, really stuck on that topic. They're not willing to give it up. Half the Democrats are stuck on it too, but about 50% are pulling away almost entirely from it. And they're running on anti-AIPAC, and they're winning. And they're Democratic Socialists running on this, and they're winning. Over 30 Democratic Socialist candidates have won their primaries this year now, and they were almost all anti-AIPAC candidates. And then there's AI. And this should be a no-brainer for all parties, both parties, all politicians. This should be the easy one. It is clear as day to American citizens what AI and what flock cameras represent. Very clear. AI is taking the jobs. The data centers are being built, and they're the other half of the equation that we'll get into as well. But flock, everything down to the name, the locations in which they're being built, what purpose they serve, how they've been abused already, and we'll get into that too. All of it is clear as day and obvious, and most Americans, I would say at least 80%, do not support flock. And beyond that, most Americans are radically opposed to it. So you would think that Republicans, being the limited government side of the aisle, they would be ahead of this. They'd be saying, whoa, what is this? We can't have this whole private company situation expanding out across the public and watching. We can't have that. But no, that's not the case. The Democrats are running away with this one too. And I want to show you this tweet right here. Bernie Sanders is now opposing flock and calling publicly for a ban on flock. He had this to say on his tweet, on Twitter today, in a tweet, a long tweet, but we're going to read the whole thing because it actually is important. And while I try not to glaze a really old socialist who I don't support otherwise mostly, who I do think is bought by Big Pharma, frankly, as well, he is almost entirely spot on this tweet. And it's sad for Republicans, but it is nevertheless true and needs to be acknowledged and therefore read. So we're going to read it. Bernie Sanders says, "Stop flock. Stop AI mass surveillance. Totalitarianism is when a government or another entity with overwhelming power seeks to know, control, and influence everything you do, say, and even think. I fear very much that if we don't act aggressively, that is where we're heading. You may not know it, but you may already be being tracked by artificial intelligence." He goes on to say, Flock, a surveillance company backed by big tech oligarchs like Mark Andreessen and Peter Thiel, has installed more than 120,000 AI-powered surveillance cameras across America. These AI cameras scan and record 20 billion vehicles every month across more than 6,000 communities. What does that mean for you? It means that if Flock is in your community and every time you leave your house, a Flock camera records and tracks you. If you are dropping your kids off at school, Flock knows. If you are going to a doctor, Flock knows. If you are going out on a date, Flock knows. And that's not all. Newer Flock cameras do not just record vehicles, they record people. Flock's AI system can combine images of you and your vehicle with databases of phone numbers, relatives, and court records to find out who you are, where you're going, and why. In my view, this raises some serious fundamental questions. Do we want to live in an America where AI companies like Flock can work with the government to track our every movement? Do we want to live in an America where our privacy rights and civil liberties enshrined in the Constitution are traded away so that AI oligarchs can collect more information and increase their profits even more? The answer must be no. We cannot allow America to become a surveillance state where a handful of AI oligarchs profit by giving the government the power to track our every movement. We must come together to stop Flock and AI mass surveillance. That is why I will soon be introducing legislation to do just that. So there you have it. Bernie Sanders now is the one leading the way on this topic now too. And this tweet is receiving a wide array of support from both sides of the aisle, and rightfully so, because he is not telling any lies. He is spot on with his assessment, with what he stated, and why it's against our rights. And it's just a shame that it took a Democratic socialist to do this, because meanwhile, Republicans just continue to deliberate on this topic. They're seemingly unable to make up their mind or join together in unison. Because sure, some Republicans are standing against this. Actually, this is being done with Bernie Sanders right now in bipartisan fashion, in truth. Republican Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri is joining Bernie Sanders on this crusade against Flock, and they're drafting what will likely be labeled as bipartisan legislation against it. So it's not to say that some Republicans haven't figured this out, and in truth, it's not even, I hate to even frame it that way, because in truth, when it comes to an AI surveillance state, it's not about figuring it out so you can win as a politician. Truly, it's about figuring it out so that you can prevent the AI surveillance state from coming into America and ruining this country and destroying our freedoms, which is the job of our representatives and our legislators. So they're figuring it out. It'll be good for them in the long run in their name recognition and reputation, but truthfully, it's not really even supposed to be about that. So while some Republicans like Josh Hawley are clearly on the right side of this, many of them seem to just be unable to figure out what to do. President Donald Trump himself, in fact, and this is really just the whole, it goes back to the whole he who hesitates has lost kind of saying here, because President Donald Trump, just a few weeks ago, outside of Marine One, was asked about Flock as well, and he said, we're looking into it. We're looking into it. I haven't formed an opinion yet. I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks, though. A couple of weeks, we'll be officially stating our opinion on Flock. We'll state our opinion soon. A couple of weeks. Well, he who hesitates has lost. The president didn't want to put out a statement in that moment that he should have already he should have already been able to do. He should have already had an opinion formulated and ready to go. Flock is not that new. It's sort of been a problem now in this country for about a year or even a little more than that. This has been taking place during the entirety, nearly, of Trump's second term, so it shouldn't be, oh, we're closing in on midterms now. You better formulate an opinion on that now, sir, because people are actually going to the poll, and they're going to be single-issue voters centered around Flock and AI. So now he has to have an opinion, and even then he didn't want to say it outright. Well, he who hesitates has lost. Now it'll be Bernie Sanders, the Democratic socialist, who will lead the charge. And it fits all too well with the campaign that he's been running to prop up Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They literally run this campaign nationwide. They go to speaking events. They host them with a podium that says, "Fight the oligarchy." All Trump had to do as president, by the way, was fight the oligarchy, and he'd be still incredibly popular. Instead, he serves the oligarchy, and he protects the oligarchy. And it is annoying. It is really fucking annoying to watch it unfold this way. And even worse than Trump hesitating on the topic, I've got even worse news regarding this as well. And that is right here, for instance. This news came out, when was this? This news came out just 2 days ago. This is of course the governor of Texas right here, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and he has approved $26 million. He's approved a $26 million contract for Flock to operate in Texas. That's what's going on down there in Texas, the great state of Texas. And here's the deal with all of this. The proponents of Flock, essentially, they attempt to pass off these Flock cameras as merely what would be updated and upgraded versions of license plate readers. That's sort of the narrative here. The narrative is, well, it can only really take a picture of your license plate, and we've had that tech for years now. Here's the problem with that. First of all, it's gaslighting. Second of all, even the license plate readers truly are actually also a violation of our rights. License plate readers, just because we've had the technology for 10 years or so, I believe, or even a little longer, doesn't mean that itself wasn't also a violation of the Fourth Amendment either. The ability for them to really monitor where we're traveling, which is our right to do, is also a massive problem. And ultimately, the fact that we've had license plate reader technology for almost a decade or more, I think, and we've had it's been used against us. They've been sending tickets by the mail now based off of license plate readers and easy pass systems and speeding, etc. You know, this highlights one of the problems, in all honesty, with the laziness of you goyim in America. You freedom-loving goy. You'll say so much about how you love your freedoms, and you'll complain so much about how they're being taken away. But then at the end of the day, license plate readers, they go up, and do you do anything about it? No, not at all. And this is what's called compromise, and why I'm so against compromise in general on this channel. Compromise merely just means both sides lose, or in many cases, compromise is just a disguise for one side losing. We're going to be seeing a lot more compromises throughout the entirety of Trump's second term here. He's going to compromise with Iran at some point in time. He's going to compromise with China at some point in time. He's compromised with Israel. He's going to compromise over Greenland. He's going to compromise over the border wall. He's going to compromise over mass deportations and internal removals and ICE presence in all of the states. He's going to compromise over Greenland. All of this. These are all compromises. How do those play out in the long run? As absolute motherfucking losses to the agenda. And it's been no different with the license plate readers. Everything, given enough time, always gets worse, transforms into an even bigger monster. We're now seeing that because license plate readers have now become Flock cameras. Here's the other thing, too. The license plate reader notion, it's now no longer true. As Bernie Sanders points out in his tweet, accurately so, they can now take still images of you as a person. And actually, this was a video put out about a month ago before Bernie Sanders, long before even Bernie Sanders' tweet. A politician that I follow pretty adamantly because he was actually my favorite pro wrestler growing up in WWF days. Kane, now known as Glenn Jacobs. And Kane, I've been following not just as a wrestler, but I remember in 2009, I was just entering high school and starting to take a liking to politics to some degree, in a way that scared me so much that I actually tried to set aside politics in my 20s. But when I was 13, 14, and 15, and all the way through into until I hit about my early 20s, I actually was starting to get involved in politics, and I followed Kane, Mayor Glenn Jacobs, down in Knox County, Tennessee, who sadly term limited, and his mayoral office will be up for grabs. He's not eligible to rerun, but a hell of a job he's done. And I've watched Kane as both a wrestler and then in the late 2000s as a politician or somebody talking about politics. He used to go on these shows. He could barely fit in the elevator on the way up, being almost 7 feet tall. And he would go on and talk about Austrian economics and libertarianism. Smart guy. Now, he has been doing a hell of a job as mayor, and he has made sure that one of his last major actions as mayor of Knox County is to ban or at least try to halt flock cameras as best as possible. He's also explained in great detail here how flock cameras are not just merely license plate readers. Take a listen to what he had to say about this right here.
Today, I am urging our commission to prohibit the use of flock cameras and similar devices in our county. For those of you who don't know, these cameras, technically called automated license plate readers, are motion activated and take a picture of every vehicle which passes by. While license plate readers have been around for a while, because of AI and vastly increased networking and data retention capacities, these flock cameras have capabilities not even imagined in the past. Older cameras only took a photo of your license plate, which was then retained for a short time. Flock cameras take a photo of your plate, but also use AI to catalog distinguishing features of your vehicle: make, color, model, even bumper stickers. That data is stored in a searchable database for sometimes up to a month or more, depending on the policies of that particular agency. When these cameras are deployed in large numbers, they create a network that can be used to track your movements. Currently, there is no federal regulatory framework governing these devices in place, and the Tennessee laws regulating them were written over a decade ago. My fear is that we may be inadvertently creating a warrantless mass surveillance system and undermining the privacy and liberty of our people. So I urge the Tennessee General Assembly and the United States Congress to look at this issue and take necessary action to safeguard our privacy and civil liberties as these new technologies continue to emerge.
Now, here's the thing with that. What Kane says there in that video is also entirely true, and Bernie Sanders was echoing that in his tweet today. On top of that, we can just go right to the source itself with a video like this right here. Now, this one's framed weird on Twitter, so you'll have to excuse the whole not very well cropped video here. But I'll just scroll up even just to show you who's posting this. Let me change the format so you can see it. Flock, the official Flock page. The official Flock page has posted this video to let you know what Flock is all about. So you can actually just take a listen to this video. It's not even a minute long, really, and they explain everything to you, and they don't even try to hide it. So just take a listen to this. It basically says everything Kane and Bernie Sanders has now said.
Two kinds of cameras, and the difference matters. Our ALPR cameras take still photographs of passing vehicles. We also make traditional live video cameras, a separate product that communities knowingly deploy for exactly that purpose. That's not a new capability. Cities and businesses have been deploying live video cameras in places of public safety concern for decades, long before Flock existed. Some of our live video cameras look exactly like our ALPR cameras, and some of them look different because they have pan, tilt, and zoom capability. Over time, some customers asked if ALPR cameras could also capture live video. We ran a pilot that added live video capability to ALPR cameras for less than 0.1% of our customers. We've since ended that pilot. Look, many of our competitors do offer live video on their ALPR devices. We decided we will not. Every device we sell should do exactly what a community expects it to do. Our ALPR cameras capture still images, our live video cameras capture video.
So there you go. Flock doesn't deny it. Kane exposed it over a month ago and put it in the regulation, or, well, I guess you wouldn't call it regulations, and Kane being a libertarian would shudder at the thought, I think. But truly, it's almost what's required in this AI age now. There needs to be restraint applied, great and severe restraint applied at the local level, at the office level like Mayor Kane holds in Tennessee. And now Bernie Sanders, thankfully, is taking it to a nationwide matter in bipartisan fashion with Republican Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, and hopefully together they can get something accomplished here. But Flock doesn't even deny this. And I want to even point something out here before I get into the actual CEO of Flock himself, which is, of course, his name is Garrett Langley. And oddly enough, people will always reference the CEO of Flock, but you almost have not the hardest time finding his full name, but it's almost like people don't really mention his full name a whole lot online, which I do find to be fascinating and interesting. That being said, here's the deal with Flock that it's also part of the whole data center thing, and I want to connect those dots. Flock, like is now being described and brought to everybody's attention, seems to be capable of so much more than what most Americans currently fathom. Most Americans, like I said, they've bought into the false notion, unfortunately, that Flock is just a license plate reader. Mayor Kane, Bernie Sanders, Flock themselves don't deny that there's so much more to it. Still images, live video, feeds, and the ability to process thousands, tens upon thousands, hundreds upon thousands of still images and live feeds, etc., and keep them and store them in a database for, like what Kane says, 30 days at least, and in some cases longer. Understand what kind of computing processing power it will take to be able to run such a system and maintain such a system. You then look to the dilemma that is AI data centers and how those are just popping up everywhere all across America. And we're being told this sort of a cognitive dissonant type way that these data centers are completely necessary in America because we have the internet, they say. This is what I've always taken the most issue with. They are preying upon the low IQ or average IQ Americans. And really, even then, it's not working. But moreover, again, and I hate to say it or bring it to this in this direction, the boomer generation. The generation, like every other generation that ages, falls out of touch with the current technology, falls out of touch with some of this stuff, and doesn't stay up to date on the newest technology or newest events, anything of the sort. So it's the boomer generation that votes. The entire block, 75% of them vote. So I've seen the videos in Florida, for instance, of Byron Donald saying, because we have this cell phone, and we use the internet, and we use large language model AIs, now we must build these data centers all over America because you Americans, using your internet that's been around for, 3 decades now? 4 decades almost? Somewhere around there? You Americans are draining everything. These data centers will help make up for that. They'll use your water and dirty it, and they'll suck away the electricity that you'll ultimately have to make up for in your monthly electric bill. You'll have to pay more for them, but they're a must-have. And if we don't build data centers, China will beat us. This is all of the narrative that they push out there about these fucking data centers. Here's the truth for you. First of all, we've already crushed China on AI data center construction. We're leading them by a ratio of, I think, 7-1. It's actually not even close. We're so far ahead that we could never build another data center and China would take forever to catch up to it, if they even wanted to. And the fact that China doesn't actually care all that much about data centers should also tell you something. The China race, we're good on. I don't even think it's an important race, and you shouldn't either. And when it comes to the internet, we've been online now for decades. Quite literally decades. Data centers weren't really a thing then, and they weren't popping up all over America out of a desperate need to be constructed due to internet usage. And large language AI models like Grok and like Claude and what, ChatGPT, they can talk to you on your phone now. They are not a drain. You're talking to Google, basically. You're talking to an advanced Google, basically, okay? We don't need the data centers for any of that. The reason why the data centers are being constructed is to power the AI surveillance state that would have been created by Flock. There's no other way to view it. There's only one thing that makes sense. And the obvious answer is usually the answer. It's not a coincidence that the data centers have been springing up and almost being constructed in a way that once again feels forced. You know, these communities, all of your local communities, they technically have to hold a town hall meeting over this and sort of run it by the people that these data centers are being built. But it almost just seems like it's only half an option at best to you to be able to reject. And the flock cameras, well, I don't know about you, but where I lived, where the flock cameras are going up as well, we were never asked. The American people were never asked if they wanted flock cameras out about in the public on every city, street, and corner. And yet, there they are. That's for a reason. And the reason is they've seen and take note of the already severe resistance to data centers being constructed. And they understand that if there's already resistance to those, there's no way in fucking hell that Americans are going to go along with flock cameras. And of course, they're not. That's why it wasn't really even presented as a choice. So I just wanted to say that and connect some dots for people on data centers and why they're actually being built. It's not for any of the reasons they'll actually tell you. The data centers are being built to usher in the AI surveillance system that will literally not just spy on you, because security cameras have been a thing as well. And again, those run pretty easily. I'm not saying I'm even in favor of a whole, security camera system. Obviously, I'm really not. If a Walmart wants, or even really, in my opinion, most Walmarts are ghetto as hell. If a Walmart needs to have security cameras in their parking lot, that's fine. They're a private business, and at the end of the day, those security cameras aren't really spying on Americans that live around the corner from the Walmart or are driving by the Walmart. They're used for parking lot surveillance and security. That's a different story altogether. Security cameras are not a drain. Flock cameras and Flock itself, or any comparable company for that matter, won't just be surveillance. It will be surveillance with profiling. Profiling that will last. A profile that will be created for preemptive measures and purposes. The kind of profile that will basically say, this is... take somebody in my chat. This is Jocks Mamain, and he goes here every day, then he goes here, and then every night he does something that we find to be a little suspicious. And all of a sudden, your profile, because you do that, and they can't really figure out what you're doing, but they're definitely watching you and profiling you and using AI to surmise what you're doing, you will now have your profile elevated to a higher degree. It'll be red flagged, and we'll be staring down the barrel of a future where you get a knock on your door over suspicious activity. In fact, sometimes that's already been happening over the past several months as well. So that is the truth behind all of this that I wanted to get out of the way before moving on to the CEO of Flock himself, Garrett Langley. Now, Garrett Langley, obviously, he's not only not concerned with ushering in this AI surveillance state, but he's the CEO of it. He's going to profit immensely off of it. And that's why he's encouraging Americans to accept it. And in this Fox News interview right here, this is literally what he had to say about Americans basically fighting the notion of flock and data centers and AI surveillance. Take a listen to this.
I value my privacy. My family values their privacy. My employees value their privacy. But what we're talking about is safety as well. And so I think when people talk about just one of these, privacy or safety, they're prioritizing the wrong thing. And what we have to prioritize as a country is compromise. How do we have our safety, and how do we balance privacy? And so when I think about legislation that calls for an outright ban, that's like banning vehicles. That would never have made sense. Instead, what we did is we introduced laws against drunk driving. We introduced laws around seatbelts, laws around airbags. I value my privacy. My family.
So he says, Americans are prioritizing the wrong thing. In the conversation of privacy versus safety, Americans are valuing the wrong thing, he says. Where we should be valuing, what we should be valuing, he says, compromise. Which is why I went off on that little bit of a rant about the word compromise. Because compromise just means either both sides lose, or like I explicitly stated at the beginning of this show tonight, compromise in some ways also is just a disguise for one side losing badly but not being able to admit it. And compromising on our own privacy really means that only we lose. And I'll tell you why. Because, first of all, It was Benjamin Franklin who literally said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. That's Benjamin Franklin. Second of all, ironically, and this is how this always works with despots or with anybody of the sort, anybody that would seek to restrict your freedoms, anybody that would seek to take away your rights. We saw it during COVID with Nancy Pelosi not walking. Businesses were supposed to be closed. You're supposed to wear a mask. Nancy Pelosi goes in without a mask when businesses are supposed to be closed to a salon that opens just for her. And she gets a nice, what do they call that for women? A perm, whatever they call that. She gets her hair done. She spends a good 2 hours in the salon being pampered, having her nails done and a hand massage and her hair done up for her. No mask on. All caught on camera. Then she goes on television and says, you should wear 2 masks, you stupid goy slaves. Wear 2 masks now. It's better than 1. You're not quite suffocating enough when you're going out in public to get, fresh air and buy your essentials. Start wearing 2 masks. We've got the 4th booster shot coming out too. The cancer rates just aren't going up high enough, and you guys aren't dying of heart attacks fast enough either. So get your 4th booster, wear 2 masks, and be advised that there's a curfew now. There is now martial law, essentially, and businesses are closed. She doesn't wear a mask. She goes in and gets her hair done in a salon when it's all supposed to be shut down. That's one example. That already took place during COVID. Have Americans not learned from COVID is the question? The answer, of course, is no, because most of you were so fucking retarded during COVID that you submitted to the tyranny. You weren't like John Locke. Resistance to tyranny is obedience to God. You weren't anything like I was, of course, but I'm literally superior to most people. I am a pureblood to this day. I didn't wear the face diaper. I stood against it proudly, was thrown out of businesses over it. But most of you went along with it, so you'd prefer to just forget about COVID. Notice how most Americans, they prefer to forget about those tyrannical times. And how they themselves mostly were the ones telling people, sir, where's your mask? Sir, you have to have a mask, sir. That was a lot of you people in chat, no doubt. And you went and sat down like good little goy and you got your booster shot. And the problem is now it's embarrassing. And now people just want to forget about it. But not only can't we, but we shouldn't. Because now there is more tyranny threatening our way of life. And thankfully this time, most Americans, to their credit, are against this. But there are some who aren't. And there are some who will still insist that this is necessary for safety. Your mask was necessary for safety. The vaccine was necessary for safety. And you're selfish if you didn't wear a mask. You're selfish if you don't get the vaccine 4 or 5 or 6 times. Because otherwise my 99-year-old grandma who has pneumonia might die if you breathe on her. Now you're selfish if you don't want cameras all over. You're selfish if you want your privacy. That's now the new narrative. The new narrative that we've heard before, but that people just want to forget that they've heard before because they went along with it the first time. Like the weak little submissive anti-American plebs that they are. It's here. It's staring us in our face again. Thankfully, most Americans are on board with what I'm saying in regards to being anti-surveillance state. But just remember, they're still trying the same tactics. You will now be made out to be selfish for wanting privacy. Don't you understand that flock cameras will help them solve crimes more, they'll say? We'll get to that in a minute. I want to just expose the hypocrisy, just like how I was referencing Nancy Pelosi there. Take a look at this right here. I found this to be fascinating. This, I'll explain what you're looking at. This is a screenshot of Google Maps of the CEO of Flock's house, Garrett Langley's house on the Google Street View. Notice something here. I didn't add that blur out effect. He had his house blurred out. What's the problem? What's the problem, Garrett Langley? What are you trying to hide? You want privacy? Garrett, what are you trying to hide there, buddy? If truly you're not willing to compromise and you want your house blurred out on Google Maps, you must be hiding something then. And that's pretty selfish of you, don't you think? See how that works? Now, beyond that, I wanted to get into this. This is the narrative now, like I said, the, 20% of Americans who just insist on being goys, right? I want to get into them, and I want to address what they're saying in support of Flock. Be sure to like the stream, by the way, if you haven't already. Double tap your phone screens, hit the thumbs up button. It's free to do, and it does encourage YouTube's algorithm to push the show out to more people who need to see this. Also, subscribe if you're enjoying the messaging. That's free to do as well, and turn on post notifications so you're notified every single time I go live, which is most nights of the week. So I want to go over this. I'm seeing some of these tweets, and really, this is the tweet that we're going to go over first, and then I'm going to show you another tweet from an establishment political talking head to circle back to this idea that the Republicans they're screwed on this. They are behind, they're out of touch, and they've lost already on this topic. It's just facts. But take a look at this. This is a tweet right here. And it is, I'm not even sure. Well, this is a tweet talking about how the CEO of Flock says Americans must compromise on their privacy. And again, notice how they say Flock CEO. They don't say his name. Garrett Langley is his name. And we're going to keep saying his name because people need to know what his name is. Garrett Langley. But I wanted to highlight this tweet in response to it, because this is the line of thinking that always gets us on the path of compromise and ultimately brings us down the path to destruction of freedoms. This is a tweet from, I don't even know, this is some random guy, but I saw this and I knew I had to call this out. I'm honestly fine with Flock cameras, he says, and what they are trying to accomplish. What I'm not fine about is the abuse that the admins have over it. The city councils and law enforcement that abuse the surveillance for personal gain, he says. Now, obviously, I want to go over that because this is what they say in support of it. They basically say, well, the concept is decent. There's a virtuousness to this concept. This definitely would help them solve more crimes. So I'm okay with Flock as a concept, they say. I'm just not okay with the fact that it could be easily abused. This is entirely illogical. The concept itself is the violation of the Fourth Amendment, a right to privacy. And then they'll say, well, you have no expectations of privacy in public. That's true, but the Fourth Amendment is supposed to protect against your right of being surveyed and being tracked and being profiled by your own government for no reason and without a warrant. And that's what Flock is literally designed to do. It is the system that will do that. And it will upload all of that to the AI consciousness that is being powered and will need to be powered by all of the advancing AI data centers. This is illogical thinking for more than that, though. The reason why it's even more illogical is because this kind of power is literally always abused. The abuse is guaranteed. It will get worse over time, too. There will be more people that will rise up and abuse it. You think it's already scary enough now. You think it's already a slap in the face now to MAGA and Republicans who voted for Trump, and of course, Trump himself is not personally attached to Flock. That we can say in all fairness. But this is happening under the Trump administration. All year long now, it's been going on. It's a complete conservative monopoly on politics right now. A red Senate, a red House of Representatives, a red Supreme Court who should be weighing in on this, and a red executive, Trump, a Republican, who, as I explained earlier, said, well, I need more time to formulate my opinion, even though this has been happening all year long. And the answer should be pretty crystal clear, in my opinion. But then again, when you think about what Trump was just advocating for a few months ago over FISA Section 702, the ability for our government to spy on us for military purposes in order to deduce possible terroristic threats. They can listen in and tap your phone lines, etc., and read through your text messages pretty much the second that they come in. And Trump was saying the same thing, weirdly, that Garrett Langley, CEO of Flock, said. Trump said that he would happily trade away some of his freedoms for more safety. He literally said this on a Truth Social post, and I, of course, went live that night to discuss that too. So is it any surprise that Trump is, I wouldn't even say conflicted on Flock, but doesn't really have a firm answer? Once again, the downsides to voting for somebody who is strictly a populist, he'll ultimately probably start to hint at the fact that maybe Flock's not that good, but he's not an ideologue. He has no real convictions, so he's never going to be the guy that crusades against it, that takes a firm stand and brings up the Fourth Amendment and God and whatever else as a justification of his convictions being against it, because he's truthfully not. Trump is neither with or against Flock in all honesty. He's going to go whichever way he thinks the wind is blowing. That's the nature of being a populist without being an ideologue. But the abuse, back onto the main point, it's guaranteed. And my point in bringing up Trump and the fact that this is happening now is to remind you that it won't always be conservatives who are in power. Democrats will be rising up too. And they've already demonstrated that they have an appetite for censorship. That happened to me personally during COVID when I was speaking out against all the bullshit. I had my personal accounts heavily censored, posts removed for me, my right to free speech taken away. I was kicked out of businesses. I was threatened to never be allowed back in unless I got vaccinated. You got to take that mark of the beast, bitch, or you can't buy, sell, or trade anymore. This was happening under Democrats. It was ushered in, funny enough, under Trump, to be fair. COVID started under Trump. He decided to close everything down. He decided to rush production of the vaccine cure, but the Democrats got in and they took power at just the right time to use it for tyrannical purposes, which is what they did. And it only got worse from there. And the Democrats, throughout the course of Biden's presidency, not only displayed tendencies of tyranny down on the American people, rightfully resisting all of the COVID bullshit, but they also displayed an appetite for lawfare against political candidates that they despised, like Trump. And though obviously I'm very critical of Trump on this channel at this point, I will say they dragged him through the courts relentlessly in what is more accurately described as a witch hunt. Hate to use his own term, but it is true. And understand that the Democrat Party hates the Republican side of the aisle so much. They hate you. If you voted for Trump, even if you regret it, and you shouldn't regret it, but even if you do, or even if you publicly disavow Trump, which you also shouldn't do, disavowing is for women. But even if, they hate you. They hate you as a white American or as a Christian or as a Republican, and they are willing to persecute you for it. Flock, being set up in place right now under a conservative, won't be used to its full potential under a conservative administration. It definitely would be used to its full potential under a Democrat/liberal one. So the abuse is guaranteed, and it's guaranteed to actually get worse, is the point in all of that. And both sides will abuse it. It's not to exonerate Republicans. Both sides will definitely abuse it. And that's the warning. And so this line of thinking of, well, I support the concept. No, you actually can't. Either you support everything that comes with that, or you reject it outright. And you should be rejecting it outright on basis of the Fourth Amendment and of your freedoms. And I just wanted to address that. I also wanted to point this out too. The abuse is already happening. Not from necessarily the Trump administration yet, though I wouldn't put it past his administration to start using them for nefarious purposes. I truly wouldn't, even as a conservative. Unlike Democrats who are not really self-aware all that much, I am willing to be. So I wouldn't put it past Trump to abuse the system, or, his administrative officials, I should say, to do so. But that remains to be seen. What we do know for a fact, however, is that it's already been abused. There are tons of reports, just like this one, this article from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. More Georgia officers, keyword more, just to let you know, this is not the first time. More Georgia officers have been arrested for flock camera misuse, officials say. Several more law enforcement officers have been arrested and charged with misusing license plate reader systems this week, according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and local officials. This is not the first time it's already happened over the past year and a half, and it won't be the last. In fact, I didn't save the video. I didn't want to spend too much time going over all of the misuse and abuse. Look it up for yourself sometime, though, and be amazed. But there was even a video of an arrest being made of a police officer, I believe in Arizona, who had used it to stalk something like 7 different women that he had dated, or something to the effect of 7 people in his personal life. And he logged into the Flock system and was tracking them and stalking them with it as a sitting police officer with a badge. They arrested him, and the police then went on to say, I just want to let you know we're policing our own on this. The problem is, the way to stop it isn't to police your own. The way to stop it is to not allow it to begin with, because it's unconstitutional and it allows for these situations to take place. What happens if it's not just a regular ranked police officer on the force doing it? What happens if it's a police chief? What happens if it's a lieutenant in the force, or a sergeant? Or what happens if it's even higher up than that, at the state trooper level, if your state has that, or a sheriff, an elected sheriff? What happens then? Who's there to police the higher ups? The answer, of course, is not really anybody. I also wanted to point this out too, and this should really seal the deal for you on your opinion on Flock. And unfortunately, it's sort of even beyond that. It'll go beyond that to point out the even worse part about this. And it points to the fact that, again, the Republicans are really divided on this topic, and worse yet, many of them have fallen completely behind on it, or are in danger of being influenced to go in the wrong direction on it. And the reason why I say that specifically is because this is the next thing I wanted to address here. Surprise, surprise. Laura Loomer today, right around dinner, right around dinner time, a great way to ruin your dinner. Laura Loomer put out a tweet, 2 tweets actually we'll go over, and it should be pretty obvious what her stance was. This Republican Jew, in her own words, a feisty Jewess. I am pro-Flock camera, she says. In fact, Loomer Strategies, her business, is open for business if Flock wants to hire my company, because I view Flock as a public safety company whose technology is helping to make America safe again, which is why I recently spoke out about my admiration for Flock cameras. She tags them too, Flock Safety. People say that they care about privacy, but then they say nothing about their iPhone showing them ads for everything they talk about privately. Your iPhone and Alexa devices spy on you. Would they help police catch your attacker? No, but a Flock camera would. I find the opposition to Flock to be irrational. I support Flock cameras. First of all, actually, people do complain about their iPhones showing them ads based off of what they've talked about. They find it creepy, and they don't want that to be the reality. They don't like that. Second of all, people complain about Alexa too. Personally, there's a reason why I don't own either an iPhone or an Alexa. It's just the principle of it. So the whole argument of people never complain about iPhone ads. Yeah, you know why? Because it's creepy, but at the end of the day, you can tap the little X on the ad and it goes away. Flock surveillance cameras, they're built on the corner of the streets that you live on. It's there every single day to track you on your way to work and on your way back and on your way to church and on your way back and on your way to the grocery store and on your way back and on your way to have an affair with your wife. I'm obviously just kidding. That's actually the truth though. And that's the problem. It's not your choice at all, and it's way beyond just the point of inconvenience. That's first of all. But when it comes to Laura Loomer, remember something. Laura Loomer, this is how you know Republicans are screwed, because Laura Loomer has the ear of President Donald Trump. In her own words, and oftentimes confirmed by Trump, at least to some degree, she calls President Trump on the phone 2 to 3 times per week. And he, according to these reports, according to what Laura says, and Trump has acknowledged this to some degree as well, he always takes her calls. And they talk sometimes for an hour, she said. This is what she's saying. She supports Flock. And I want to go into the strategy behind this. I want to go into what she says after that, her second tweet, because This is where it gets the most interesting. This is really where you sort of see the agenda exposed in her second tweet. Take a look at this one right here. She says, I want a flock camera outside of every mosque in America. I am pro-flock. She wound up saying that a few minutes after her first post. Now you see what's going on. A Republican Jew influencer supports Flock, an AI data surveillance-based system. Mass surveillance in America. She supports it. She wants a Flock camera outside of every Muslim mosque in America. Wow, it makes so much sense. And really, I'm not even pointing to the Jew-Muslim trope. That's where most people will, that's the extent to where most people will take that. They'll see that tweet, and some of them will even agree with it. They'll say, yeah, we should actually have a camera outside of every mosque, yeah. Until you point out the backward standard of that. I want a camera on every Jewish heritage community center. What now? I want a camera outside of the location of every community center, Jewish community center in America. What now? Well, you can see how all of a sudden there's a little bit of a double standard there. That's first of all. But second of all, because that's the chud take. Oh, what about we should just have a camera outside of every Jewish center. Yeah, okay, funny and true. Good thing to point out there. But second of all, I want to say this. How about Sharia law is just banned? How about we look at the fact that mosques are being built in America and we just say, no, actually, that's not allowed. Like, this doesn't solve the root of the problem, her Jew brain thinking of it. Oh, a camera outside of every mosque. How about we just say no mosques in America? No more mosques. This is not a Muslim nation. It wasn't founded by Arabs. No mosques. Simple. Easy. And a winning narrative for most Americans. A camera outside of every mosque, what is that supposed to do, first of all? Second of all, here's the real truth behind all of this. It's no surprise that a Jewish Republican commentator would be advocating for mass surveillance in America. No surprise at all. It's even less of a surprise that she would invoke the Muslim trope into this and use the fear of Muslims to further advance that agenda. The Muslims, as they are accurately described, have historically been the broomstick of Israel, the broomstick of their people, of the Israeli people. The modern day Israeli people. They're the broomstick. They're the ones, and the fear associated around them that are constantly used as an emotional ploy and tactic against we goyim to usher in everything that takes away our rights and erodes our country's freedoms and culture and society. Always. Literally always. Everything's about Muslim fear. And I'm not here to be a Muslim advocate. I would support a ban on mosques. Personally, in my country. I don't want mosques in my country. I want churches, and that's the extent of religious buildings allowed. America was founded by Puritans. It was settled by the Puritans in the 1600s, and it was established by Christians. Churches are good. I like the church bells, which, funny enough, don't play all that much anymore. I like everything about it. They're a beautiful-looking building. Mosques? Not so much. And they shouldn't be allowed to begin with. So that would take care of the whole we need a camera outside of every mosque. No, we just need to ban the mosques. There should be no mosques. But beyond that, so funny that that's how that goes. Well, it's you should be afraid of the Muslims. The implication here by Laura Loomer is that the cameras would make it safer. We can use the cameras now to look at the Muslim communities, right? Here's the problem with that. Over in Britain, they're being overrun by Muslims. And the funniest thing about that, and nothing's funny about it, but the sadly ironic thing about her comparison there, or what she's trying to do there, England had a huge number of closed circuit TV cameras installed all around their cities. This is not a new system. We call it Flock here. China calls it CCTV. And England has their own version of it, and it's already been installed and active. And what have we seen in the years since? We have seen a Muslim invasion of Britain. We have seen them taking to the streets. They are roaming around the streets in gangs and stealing from the British people. And beyond that, as exposed by the Restore Britain candidate Rupert Lowe, there are Muslim rape gangs, just gangs of Muslims roaming the streets in certain neighborhoods of Britain that they've entirely almost closed off, by the way, and turned into makeshift Muslim communities with makeshift Sharia law enforcement of them. And they roam the streets and they roam outside of them and they rape women. And this has been exposed by Rupert Lowe. All of this has been exposed, and with what you bear in mind, it's all taken place under their own closed-circuit TV cameras. What goes on over there in Britain after these Muslim rape gangs commit what they commit and do what they do? Are the Muslims going to prison at record numbers over in Britain? No, they're given the utmost grace and mercy by the British courts and by the British government, and they're deliberately overlooking it, in fact, so that they're not racist. Do you know what the closed-circuit TV cameras over in Britain serve to do? They serve to not stop or track the Muslims and watch their behavior and pre-profile them for deportation or prison. The closed-circuit surveillance cameras in Britain are always used against the native inhabitants. Why did you tear down that Palestinian flag? Why did you tear down that flag over there? Why'd you tear down that Iran flag? Why did you go into the Muslim neighborhood and throw a rock at them? You're fucking going to prison now for 10 years, Brit. Why'd you do that? Why'd you roam the streets? Why are you hanging the British flag? Why are you doing things that are offending the Muslims? That's what the closed circuit cameras, the TV surveillance cameras in Britain serve to do. It's never used to target the outsiders. It is used to target the inhabitants who the Zionists want to replace. The Zionists, on their forever quest to destroy Rome and get revenge for the destruction of their second temple in 70 AD, they hate Britain, they hate Europe, they hate America by extension. And of course they want the surveillance. They love the open borders immigration. They love all the crime that comes with it. And these surveillance cameras wouldn't be installed to then prevent the rising crime rates from the third world inhabitants who are flooding into our lands and replacing us. The cameras would be installed to ensure that we just bend over and fucking take it from them. And that we don't actively fight the replacement, because if we do, we're the ones then that will be recorded and documented and pre-profiled by the surveillance and dragged into the courts. Do you need any further proof of that than right here, by the way? Here, you take a look at this story. This is how seriously they're taking the resistance to the flock cameras being destroyed by the rebels, who in this case, of course, is a white man. Florida man smashes flock camera that was a police decoy set up as bait. This was in Oviedo, Florida. Police 3D printed a fake flock camera at an officer's house after the real ones kept getting stolen and destroyed. They then put the plastic decoys on poles and staked them out at night and waited. A 24-year-old cut one down with pruning shears and then smashed it. He is now facing 3 felonies, grand theft, criminal mischief over $1,000, and damaging computer equipment. The mayor said she had no idea the sting was happening, and the city council is already looking at ending the flock contract, thankfully. Now, maybe this guy gets spared by the system, and he deserves to be, by the way. I call that a hero and a patriot. But the sting operations, the taxpayer-funded sting operations, our money going towards sting operations to discourage the behavior of destroying flock. And in that case, and I use that one specifically, it's a 24-year-old white American who is now the victim from flock. Do you know who won't be the victim from flock over here in America? Much like over in Britain, how they don't use flock really to target the Muslim rape gangs, and even if they do, they're picking them off one at a time, and more so using them to target the native inhabitants. The white indigenous people of Britain have fallen more victim to the AI, well, it's not AI surveillance yet, to the surveillance systems, to the social media monitoring. The white indigenous people of Britain. I stand with the indigenous people. I'm against the Muslim colonizing filth of Britain, who are not the targets of their surveillance system. Because if they were, a lot of them would be deported. Most of them. And more so, some of them would be in prison. Over here in America, it wouldn't be any different. That 24-year-old white guy in Florida is facing 3 felony charges that will ruin his life because he decided they violated his Fourth Amendment rights and he wanted to destroy them, as he should. Do you know who won't be targeted here in America? All the minorities that commit all of the crimes. The black guy on the subway that killed Irina Zarutska, let go 14 times by a judge on cashless bail so he could keep terrorizing American people. Do you think if Flock catches somebody like that, roaming around the streets, stabbing a white girl in the neck and killing her, and then saying, I got that bitch, I got that white bitch, I killed her? Do you think they're going to go, well, what's the Flock cameras show about him? Let's look at his past activity. No, he's black. So he commits a crime and he goes before a judge and he gets out the same day on cashless bail. And his court date keeps getting extended and he keeps asking for, whatever else. You really think that that's what the Flock cameras are going to do? You think they're going to be targeting crime? No, because crime is racist. White people aren't the ones committing enough crime to justify using Flock to track crime. And if we're not the ones committing the crime, they have no interest in dealing with crime and using Flock for that. All you would see with a mass surveillance system that's set up with pure motives to track crime would be tons more black people going to prison. You would see all the minorities being deported on bad behavior and for crimes, and you would see black people going to prison. And they can't have that. That's racist. So the Flock cameras instead will be used just to profile you and make your life a hell and usher in tyranny. That's the truth behind the Flock cameras. And that's the truth behind the faulty thinking of all of these people pushing for it. The guy who says, well, I support the concept of Flock because, it's a good concept. I just don't like that it can be abused. It will always be abused. Something like this can't exist because it's abusive inherently. That's why the Fourth Amendment exists, to prevent the abuse. And then Laura Loomer, with her stupid mosque comment, the Muslim broomstick of the Jews. Aren't you afraid of the Muslims? The Flock cameras can watch them. They won't. Britain doesn't use them for that reason. We wouldn't be either. And I wanted to point that out because, again, I can't emphasize this enough. Laura Loomer calls Trump 3 times a week and talks with him an hour every time, according to what she says. And Trump doesn't deny this. So just understand, under Republicans' watch, this is all happening. And nothing's being done to stop it. Some people are supporting it. The establishment GOP, by the way, the reason why they can't really speak out against this, again, goes back to the fact that, like I explained earlier, the real reason why these data centers are necessary and being built to the magnitude and degree that they are, replacing all of our farmland, by the way, that feeds people, so we can place down something over it that ruins that farmland, sometimes forever or for long periods of time. It would be really hard to recover the farmland after data centers are built by it, is what the science says. The farmland fed people, us, we the people. We got fed from the farmland. The data center comes in, it's placed on the farmland, ruins the farmland, and feeds the machine. This is the logic behind this fucking system. And beyond that, the reason why the data centers are being built is to support the Flock AI surveillance system that would be a massive drain and would need the support of the data centers. That's first of all. But second of all, when you look into the names behind these organizations, specifically Palantir, and how Palantir would be contracted, without a doubt, to be the profiling AI system that Flock would use and be powered by the data centers, that, of course, is owned by Peter Thiel, a wealthy Jew who's a Republican donor. And that's where big tech comes in and rears its ugly head. That's the reason why we can't vote for J.D. Vance in 2028. He is Peter Thiel's buddy. He worked for Peter Thiel out of college. He was funded by Peter Thiel for his Senate run, etc. Peter Thiel and all of his billions of dollars is a massive incentive for the Republicans to look the other way, which they will desperately try to do so they can stay funded. And that's one of the biggest issues. And that's why Republicans are falling behind. Unlike the Democrats, who, again, like I've explained, they're pulling ahead on this. And again, this is the whole deal with this. This is Bernie Sanders. This is the news about Bernie Sanders here. Bernie Sanders is now the one leading the way to introduce legislation to halt the flock cameras and AI surveillance. Now, again, too, I'll emphasize, bipartisan. Republican Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri is also right alongside Bernie Sanders, according to the reports, forming a bipartisan alliance in order to get this legislation passed. And it should hopefully pass. When we've seen bipartisan legislation drafted, a lot of times it passes pretty well. This will probably be one of them, but sadly the attribution and credit will go more to the Democrats, and there's no way around that. Now, what I want to point out here, Bernie Sanders is drafting this legislation, and here's the deal with this. This legislation must be as detailed as possible. If they're serious about this, if Bernie Sanders is serious about this legislation, and I think he is, and I think Josh Hawley is, and I think they want this to be, I hope they want this to be all-encompassing, then we have to understand that we're already seeing the establishment, whatever that may be, some sort of combination of Democrats, and seemingly at this point in time, mostly Republicans, for all the aforementioned reasons I just explained about big tech being mostly a Republican endeavor currently because of the support aspect of it. The establishment has figured out, to some degree, how unpopular flock is. That's why Trump always gives his opinion on everything right off. Right, whenever asked, Trump almost never says, well, gee, I'll have to think about that. Trump just blurts shit out. That's what makes him funny sometimes. Trump delayed giving his opinion on flock, not because he doesn't already know where American people stand on it, but in truth because he knows it's not popular, but he also knows that Peter Thiel and Palantir and all of the donors of the big tech donors will not fund Republicans if their biggest Republican guy, the president, demonizes them. And they're already then figuring out as a result subsequently that flock's not popular. And so now what you're seeing, and Democrats are guilty of this too, I've been tracking it in some states, New York is one of them, and I believe New Mexico, California to some degree as well. You got to keep your eyes on this. There's some Democrats that are just as guilty of this. They're basically saying, well, we're going to halt flock. We're going to put a moratorium on flock, they say. Understand what the tactic of that is, just so you can see through it and be prepared to fight. First of all, it's the same tactic being used with data centers in some cities and locations right now. A moratorium is just a pause. And in some places, you're seeing 3-year moratoriums, 1 or 2 or 3-year moratoriums on data center construction. And that seems like a breath of fresh air, and it seems like you can take a nice sigh of relief after reading that kind of news. And you kind of can, but not completely. The fight is nowhere near over. In truth, the political strategy behind putting a moratorium on data centers is, in some cases, a 3-year moratorium. That is in hopes that over these next 3 years, you will simply forget about the data center. You'll just forget. You'll forget that that's the goal. You'll forget that the moratorium was set for 3 years. You won't know what the deadline of that is. And then they'll rush a town hall meeting where you live 3 years from now. And it'll be, we're here to decide on whether or not we should approve data centers. All in favor say aye. Aye, aye, everyone. And then boom, data centers are being built and most people have forgotten. That's their hope. That's the strategy behind these pauses, halts, moratoriums. Unless you see the word, we're banning flock, we're banning data centers, then the fight is not over. That's first of all. Secondly, the legislation that's now going to be proposed by Bernie Sanders and Josh Hawley, it's bipartisan. It needs to be detailed because The other tactic that we're now seeing, data centers is one thing. Data centers is all encompassing. There may be several companies building them, but if there's a moratorium on data center construction, though they're hoping you may forget about it, ultimately that means no company is building a data center for the next 3 years or 2 years or 1 year, depending on how long the moratorium is. So that's a sigh of relief for that period of time. You must still focus on it, but that means no data centers are being built because it's generalized. With Flock, not so. And here's what people need to understand about Flock and these cameras. Flock is not unique when it comes to AI surveillance, when it comes to camera surveillance. It's not just Flock. There's Axon as well. So some of these cities are sneakily objecting to Flock, the mayors or whatever. They're saying, well, we don't support Flock, and we're halting Flock, they say. And you go, oh, thank God, wow, an actual good candidate. Only to find out that the reason why is because they're actually swapping out Flock with Axon. And it's the same thing, except Axon allegedly, perhaps, has ties with Jeffrey Epstein from back when he was alive. So Flock, Axon. There's also red light cameras. There's photo radar. There's automated license plate readers, the ALPRs. There's facial recognition and mass data sharing. These are all the issues currently with surveillance plaguing our nation or threatening to plague our nation. And so the legislation from Bernie and Josh Hawley needs to be detailed and precise. It needs to be thorough. It can't just be no Flock, no AI surveillance. It truthfully should be no Flock, no Axon, no red light cameras, no photo radar, no license plate readers at all. Tear them down. No facial recognition, no mass data sharing. That is what I'll be looking for in this legislation coming up. That is what we need going forward. And so that's what I wanted to get on to say about the Flock situation going on here. Additionally, I wanted to actually point out something as well that irked me a little bit today. And it's part of the political game. Because it is, from what I've been seeing, it is a decent amount of Democrat politicians that they recognize, and to their credit, like I said at the beginning, they're the ones picking up on the zeitgeist of the Gen Z millennials. It's Israel and it's AI. And so rightfully, they're going down the right direction from a campaign promise standpoint, from a public statement standpoint, and they're being sneaky about it, like I pointed out. Well, we're not doing Flock. They're doing Axon instead. You got to look for that. But the Republicans, again, are not exonerated. In fact, in some ways, they're worse. They're worse because they're either outright trying to ignore the problem, or they're trying to talk past the problem, or gaslight people about the problem. And they can't really make up their minds as firmly as the Democrats seem to be doing. And this really rubbed me the wrong way right here, this whole thing that I saw on Twitter. And it's not because he's not actually been a good governor. Ron DeSantis, most people would say, has been an excellent governor of Florida. And I've supported a lot of what he did during COVID and up until now, his term, of course, ending later on this year. Ron DeSantis was addressing the Flock, I believe this was today, and I won't play the full thing, but just take a listen so you can get an understanding of where he's standing on it.
Whether it's online with digital surveillance or whether it's with cameras, at what point are we just going to be free to not have to deal with any of that? And so I think it needs to be overhauled for sure. I know New Hampshire did something that really kept it. It's interesting. They put something in a bill about using them on state, so the sheriffs and the police can use it on state right-of-ways. And I asked Jared, I said, well, is the state involved? State doesn't get any of the information or anything. It's just like they're doing it. So we don't even really know, like the police department or whatever. And when I see like a police officer using this to track like an ex-girlfriend, I'm like, what the hell's going on, with this? So I think this has happened very quickly. I think people are right to be concerned. I wanted an AI Bill of Rights that could have addressed this and other issues. The Senate passed a product, and the House in Florida, they wouldn't even do anything about it. Now,
The House in Florida wouldn't do anything about it. The Republican House of Florida, by the way, wouldn't do anything about it. Now, what he was saying there, and he continues to say, sounds good, and it is. And I believe for the most part, Ron DeSantis believes that. He's been a good governor. He's been pretty based on freedoms. He wants to eliminate the property taxes, everything. There's been a lot of good when it comes to Florida, what's taking place. No state income tax. They're trying to get rid of the property taxes, enhancing and expanding freedom. I do like that overall. And so it's not to completely shit on Ron DeSantis. But what I'm going to say is Ron DeSantis is complaining about the inaction of Florida in certain regards when it comes to, again, the abuse by the police officers in some cases who use it to stalk their girlfriends or, anything else centered around AI surveillance. And I wanted to point this out. Ron goes public just today or yesterday, this was, or 2 days ago maybe. When was that actually? Let me get an official date on that. Yeah, just today, technically yesterday now. He goes public and he starts saying this in a public press conference that was picked up by Forbes and mainstream media alike. And he's criticizing AI surveillance as he should, and he's demonizing it as he should. And he's talking about how much of a problem it could be, and currently is, as he should. But one of the things that I wanted to point out in regards to that is he's on his way out as governor now. So he's kind of talking about how he's hoping Florida won't turn into an AI surveillance state. These are his words. He says, I sure hope after all my time being governor here that when I leave, it doesn't turn into an AI surveillance state, he says. That's basically what he's saying. And he's said something very similar to that actually as well. Well, here's where I have a gripe with that. And this is how politics is played out once again and how it bothers me. They had a candidate down in Florida running just the other week for governor to replace DeSantis. His name was James Fishback. And James Fishback, despite losing his primary race, he, after losing, wound up going in front of the Martin County Board of Commissioners on August 25th, 2 days ago, and he spoke about the dangers of the data centers. Even though he's not going to be the governor, and Byron Donalds is, Fishback is the one still putting in the work, and you can see that right here in this video.
And I can tell you there is a real frustration with the prospect of a data center being built here. We can talk at length about how it would drive up electric bills, how it would jeopardize the water supply. But oftentimes we should go to square one. Why a data center in the first place? Oftentimes, questioning every last assumption can get us closer to the truth. Not his version of the truth or her version of the truth, certainly not they-them's version of the truth, but the truth singular. My grandfather was a professor at Florida Atlantic University for 20 years in computer science. And when he was building computers back in the 1970s and 80s, they would occupy rooms like this. Then the breakthrough of the 90s was a computer could sit on a desk. Then that same computer could go in your pocket. And now it can exist on a watch. We have to ask ourselves, despite all of the drawbacks of data centers, are there really any upsides? Are there upsides to build a data center that we're now being told the internet won't work unless there's a 2 million square foot facility built just outside of our neighborhood? Netflix, email, ChatGPT will suddenly shut down unless Martin County residents accept higher electric bills, lower water pressure, and lower property values. It is incumbent upon this commission to ask those questions, to ask why. We know the downsides of a data center, but the upsides that are being spun by both the left and the right on a data center being necessary when we already have 12 times as many data centers in this country than China does. When we are told that there's an AI arms race between the United States and China, even though the average American couldn't name a Chinese AI company, while we have NVIDIA, OpenAI, X, and Anthropic. We have to remember that the same speculative excesses that drove us off a cliff during the 07-08 bubble seem to be at work today. And so before we drone on about the obvious drawbacks of data centers, it makes sense to question whether there is any real upsides and whether the same obsolescence that came for large-scale warehouse computers, that then came for desktop computers, that made computational technologies smaller and more efficient, whether the data centers of today that claim necessity may be obsolete tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, first of all, I just want to say that is a guy with a bright political future, and that is why Fishback is the future, spearheading the America First movement in Florida with a 10.5% victory, I would call it, despite the fact that he did lose to Byron Donalds. Coming in with no name recognition and $950 in his pocket, fighting against the establishment and still getting that decent of a result. And despite losing, going just a few days later to the Commissionary Board of Martin County and fighting for a data center moratorium / possible ban being implemented for the county. Now, by the way, after his recommendation there, they voted in a 4-1 vote on the board there to follow Fishback's recommendation and add it onto their agenda. So Fishback is still doing work. He's doing God's work, and I wish this channel was bigger, actually, because if I had tons of money, I'd literally be sending money to Fishback for future campaign purposes. That being said, the reason why I show you that after Ron DeSantis' speech about how he is worried about surveillance and data center construction and flock and everything else in Florida, I want to point this out, and this just points to the flaw of the political environment in America currently, because Fishback was the anti-data center, anti-flock candidate. Byron Donalds wasn't. Byron Donalds couldn't even win with a majority in Florida despite being endorsed by Trump 3 times and literally raising something like $110 million from Jewish money in AIPAC and big tech money, surprise, surprise, and the Kalshi betting markets funding his campaign, Miriam Adelson's private donations, yada, yada, yada. And he still only won with a plurality instead of a majority at 47% because he's not liked or popular in Florida. He couldn't even get over 50% or even close to 60% like he should have with the endorsements and the Fox News appearances. And there's a reason for that. The reason is because Byron Donalds supports data centers. He's the one that holds up his phone at the little conferences he was doing on the campaign trail, telling the 70-year-old boomer women who aren't going to ever understand this stuff completely and are going to be trusting in him to some degree because he's running as a Republican, and boomers view politics as team sports. He holds up his phone. He says, because you all have this now, data centers are necessary. Is that fair? He supports the data centers, and while he somewhat criticized Flock, if I remember correctly, he basically said as governor that he wouldn't motion to ban it outright or the data centers, and that he would prefer to leave it to the county level, if I remember correctly. What I do know is he was a big tech-friendly candidate who wouldn't take a firm stance on any of this stuff, and that was deliberate. As somebody in the vertical chat I saw said, when Byron Donalds goes in, if he goes in and doesn't lose to Dave Jolly, the Democrat, they just said in my vertical chat, 400 data centers will spring up in Florida. That's true. And as I've established on this channel, by the way, the data centers, again, are for what? They're not for your cell phones. They're for powering Flock. So that tells you what you need to know. And here's my point in all of this, bringing up DeSantis' speech and his now fear of leaving office and watching Florida delve into an AI surveillance state. Fishback fighting, even after losing the gubernatorial primary days later, to put the moratoriums on the agenda in these counties, as opposed to Byron Donalds seemingly in support of it and being funded by it to some degree. Why I bring all of that up is because Ron DeSantis was the sitting U.S. governor of Florida throughout all of this as well, and while he opposes it, he also wouldn't weigh in on the GOP primaries. He never gave an official endorsement for any candidate. Had he have done that, a lot of Floridians who love Ron DeSantis, they love him. Even the ones in Florida that criticize him for running against Trump last election season will still say, but I love him as governor. And he certainly deserves it overall. Overall, he has been a good governor. So it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. Had he had the balls to endorse the right candidate, rather than dancing around the topic and not really wanting to not endorse Byron, who had been endorsed by Trump, had he just come out and said, I endorse James Fishback, perhaps we wouldn't be in this boat. But this is the problem with the establishment. Even a decent, I would argue, great overall politician like DeSantis played by the establishment rules. And now Florida is in jeopardy of all kinds of bullshit, especially if Byron Donalds wins. So I wanted to point that out because that bothers me, actually. It bothers me. And the only saving grace in all of it is being able to see how authentic James Fishback is, that he was spotted on the local TV television cameras going before commissionary boards to insist that they put on their agenda in the future a pause, moratorium, or ban on data centers, up for discussion, up for votes, etc. That's the only saving grace. It allows Fishback to look better because he deserves to look better because he is better. But that's part of the problem. And again, it's the right wing that I'm calling out there because they need to be called out. The right wing, above all else, should be the side taking the firmest stance against surveillance. And they're not. And it's a huge problem. That's all I've got to say about that, though. Be sure to like the stream. We're going to get on to the next story here as well. I do want to talk about Trump renaming Lake Ontario to Lake America. It's ridiculous. And I'm not going to talk about the lake thing. It's still kind of funny to me, I won't lie. But I'm going to highlight the bigger problem that's going on with MAGA in regards to that. The response to it. The response to the renaming of Lake Ontario to Lake America. What we're seeing on the internet, and in my opinion, and I posted on Twitter about this, you should go follow. Everybody should follow me on Twitter, literally. I'll show you my Twitter page right here. Everyone should follow me on Twitter at American_Advo, right there. That's my Twitter page. Go follow me right now and like every post I post the minute I post it and comment under it too. Every single time. I demand it. And if you won't do it, I'll deport you from this channel. That being said, I made a post about it because Donald Trump, of course, renamed Lake Ontario to Lake America. And the response on social media is actually very revealing to the current condition and state of MAGA. So we're going to get into that in a second here. Be sure to like the stream, double tap your phone screens, hit the thumbs up button. It's free to do, and it does encourage YouTube's algorithm to push this show out to a lot more people who need to see this. Also subscribe, of course, to American Advocates for more content like this. I go live every single night for the most part. Turn on post notifications so you're notified every time I go live. And be aware I'm streaming in two formats too. I'm streaming both vertical and horizontal. We got to stop everything here too. There was another super chat that came in earlier from, let me see. Did I lose it? I thought I saw another super chat that had come in here. Let me check the horizontal feed. Let's see. I always want to recognize the super chat tariffs when possible. Oh, maybe not. Okay, I think we're good to go. I think the Waits Experience gave me one for half a stick of gum, actually, so thank you for that. Yeah, Michael Cox, that's what it was. $2 for the half a stick of gum. Thank you for the super chat tariff, Michael Cox. Appreciate you a lot, man. And I saw something else here, but I might have missed it. That's my bad. Either way, we're going to get into this, the whole Gulf of America thing. Let's take a look at this right here. This was President Donald Trump today announcing it. Take a listen.
We're going to be changing the name of Lake Ontario, effective immediately, to Lake America. That's going to take place right now as I sign the order. Do you have anything to say about it, Ben?
Yes, sir. So this is a straightforward but important executive order. It directs Secretary Burgum and the Department of the Interior to update the Geographic Names Information Service to reflect that the lake once known as Lake Ontario will, from this day forward, be known as Lake America.
We're going to be...
Okay, so Lake America, he signed the order today with his Sharpie, a huge name on it, and it's now, according to the Trump administration, officially Lake America. You can see right here. This is what he posted on True Social Lake America, no longer Lake Ontario. The obvious reason why he's doing this is to play the head games with Canada, as he seems to have restarted a new trade war with Canada at what I would consider to be a very inopportune time. And I've already expressed in great detail and at great length on this channel multiple times my opinions on tariffs. I actually like them as a concept. I believe they're good as an economic practice in the right circumstances with the right implementations, both of which we're not currently in. We're not in the right circumstances anymore because of the Iran war especially, and the implementation of them by President Donald Trump has been completely erroneous. It has been to our detriment as a result. Thankfully, not catastrophically. So that's first and foremost. I've also done expose videos, literally, on Canada and how problematic they've been as a trading partner to America and how one-sided it really is as a trade relationship. I've gone into all the details, exposing everything from their lumber to their dairy and how they have corrupt dairy cartels right up there in Canada that impose on their Canadian government and force them essentially to try to create these lopsided tariff trade relationships over dairy with the United States. It's not fair to our farmers, and to be frank with you, as an American nationalist, I only care about our farmers. Point blank. So I've done all the videos on this. I've already gone over the massive imbalance. Trump is not wrong for pointing it out. And as critical as I've been of Trump on this channel, since especially this year, Trump is correct in pointing it out. However, the Iran war is going on. He can't even make a deal with Canada. And now, sensing the weakness as a result of looking bad during the Iran war, Canada is now challenging Trump on the latest trade war and threatening to match him tariff for tariff, dollar for dollar. That's a problem. And maybe I'll go live in detail on what's behind all of that. I've honestly been kind of procrastinating on it because I don't want to go into the detail on Canada trade again. I've done it before, like I said. You can check out my videos on my channel for that. Straight facts on those videos. Again, like the stream and subscribe, and you can check that out. But all of this is to say, this is just a mental game being played by Trump, and it serves two purposes. One, he's trying to be feisty with Canada, and he's playing head games geopolitically with Canada over it. It's not going to work. It is amusing. I still find it funny. A part of me really wants to love this. I love the name change Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. And in a simple way, I'll explain why. It's because the reality is all of this is ours. This Western Hemisphere is ours. As an American living in the United States, we recognize the reality of what Mexico is and what they aren't. We recognize what Canada is and what they aren't. They're valuable countries to us from a resource standpoint. We have a trade system set up with us under the CUSMCA or whatever it's called, Canada, Mexico, USA, whatever. We've got the system set up. We recognize what South America is and isn't, and we've been developing some good relations with them. Argentina sending us their beef. The conspiracy theorists, the Candace Owens conspiracy theorists, are insisting it's going to be poisoned by Israel already. I don't know how true that is or isn't. I'm not actually even looking to get into that topic too much. It doesn't bother me that much. It's not good for our farmers, though, so I'm not a huge fan of it. But that's because, that being said, we have the relationship with Argentina. El Salvador, another example. We know what these countries are and what they aren't. The fact of the matter is, should any of these countries come under attack, should Mexico, and it's not like it will happen, but in a hypothetical, should Mexico come under attack, should Canada come under attack, they can't defend themselves. Canada is pitiful, militarily speaking. And they would be trying to rely, being technically still owned in some ways by the crown, they would be looking towards Britain, they would tell you, especially right now, wanting to deny the actual reality of the matter. They would say, well, we have Britain, and they would defend us if we were under attack. Britain's military has also become a joke. Britain is an example of what America will look like in 100 years, or maybe even less with how fast some of this stuff is moving, if we don't change course now. Britain has been an empire in decline since World War II. So Britain, they've decommissioned a lot of their navy and their naval boats, and they've literally diminished as a military power. When Trump was threatening Greenland, Britain's show of force was to send one soldier to Greenland. They apparently couldn't spare any more. And I say that half jokingly, but half based in reality. Britain can't defend Canada. America can. America can and would, because Canada's at our northern border. If they were under attack, that would be seriously threatening to us, and we value them as a trade partner. When all this is said and done, we value Canada as a trade partner. We just want fair trade. First of all, that's first and foremost. And this is, again, not to advocate for Trump's foolish tariffs or trade war. This is at the most inopportune, foolish time. But it is to be real about this. We would be the saviors of Canada or Mexico, or for that matter, anything in South America. It's our Western Hemisphere. That's how I view it, because it's reality. So renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, to me, makes the most sense. First of all, it's North, Central, and South America anyway. And second of all, yeah, it's our Gulf, because if there's problems in it, it's our military that is dealing with that predominantly. Same with the Lake Ontario then, same sort of logic. This is imperialist logic to some degree, but it's because it's rooted in truth. So yeah, it's funny. I don't think he should be rechanging the name of Lake Ontario to Lake America, though. I'm not saying that it's a great idea or that I love it. I'm saying, first of all, it's funny to some degree, less funny than the Gulf of America from last year. And the reason why it's less funny is actually what I want to get into today. But it is funny, and I don't really give a shit that much. I'm not here to moral fag with you about, oh, those Lake Ontario, it was really named after the Native American tribes up there that named it, and it means crystal clear blue, beautiful waters. And it was, a stoner Native American, and, who was just living his life and was colonized. I don't care. I really don't. What I am looking at beyond that is the impact of this. And this whole situation and how it's been received on the internet, in my opinion, is what actually tells the bigger story here. Because what we're seeing are also equally, yes, it is funny. I don't care what people think. It is funny. Trump is funny sometimes, even now. This is less funny than the Gulf of Mexico situation, because back then I still really liked Trump, and I was eating up all of the liberal tears and angst online who were moral fagging about the name change. Well, that's Mexico's Gulf, and blah, blah, blah. Fuck you. Grow up, first of all. But second of all, it's less funny now because of where MAGA is currently at, because of how much of a failure this second term for Trump has been. So he's not getting away with it the same way. And what we're seeing, and what I wanted to point out in regards to all of this, is that there are equally now funny memes popping up about it that are in the favor of the other side. This meme, which is actually a fake technically, this is the Ontario Premier, Doug Ford, technically like a governor or mayor in Canada, for the whole territory of Ontario, or whatever it's called up in Canada. I don't know, I'm not fucking Canadian. Doug Ford. Somebody screenshotted this, or wanted you to think they screenshotted Doug Ford posting this picture of him posting a meme of Lake Michigan being name changed to what you can see here being Lake Epstein. And the reason why I wanted to point this out and show you this is because essentially this tells you something. And most people are not going to read it this way, but I did. I not only read it this way, I put this tweet out about it. And that's also what I want to show you here. I call this out, and you can see here, and again, you should follow me on Twitter at American_Advo. First of all, this is fake. Ontario Premier Doug Ford did not actually tweet this. Second of all, it does still highlight an actual problem with MAGA and Trump that not many will understand. Throughout 2024, MAGA was ascending as the anti-establishment cool party. They were able to effortlessly and accurately call out the moronic hypocrisy of low IQ, liberal left progressive ideology. The same kind of liberal ideology that had essentially resulted in the Democrats building a glass house to reside in. They couldn't really throw stones from their glass house without getting them hit back at them and destroyed. And what I'm saying in that, just to pause it real fast on reading that, what I was saying there is essentially the Democrats were living in a glass house in 2015, and we saw that exposed multiple times. Hillary Clinton would try to come at President Donald Trump, and he had his notorious line, "'Cause you'd be in jail." Because it's the Clinton crime family, as some people would call it. It started really back then, but where it really hit its peak, in my opinion, was in late 2023, but really predominantly all throughout 2024, when Trump was back on the campaign trail, rising up to take the office back from Joe Biden. All of his promises were appealing. They were the populist stance with Americans. And that's undeniable after witnessing the results on election night, where he won the popular vote, where he won all 7 swing states, where he won, obviously, the electorate, and he won, obviously, the entire nation, because every state became more red on that election night where Trump was reelected. Every state, including California and New York. So he won outright on populist beliefs, on the populist agenda, and on campaign promises that Americans loved and wanted to hear and actually have enacted. And as a result of all of that, the liberal ideology was cracking more than ever. Woke, they said, died. Woke is dead. DEI, gone. This is what they said. It's not true, actually, sadly, but this is what was happening. And in large part, the meme culture online is what we saw really develop around MAGA. It's what made MAGA cool to some degree, because MAGA was more popular with the youth as a right-wing movement than perhaps any Republican has been in 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 or 90 years. Republicans just are not cool with the youth. Trump was, because he was like your based grandpa who would occasionally say misogynistic and racist stuff out of nowhere and get laughs over it. So yeah, anti-establishment youth people, young men who tend to just go the anti-establishment route, were supporting Trump more than ever, which meant that young men were on social media making actual funny memes in support of Trump's campaign promises and against the liberals, calling out the liberals' transgender ideology and their blue hair and their what is a woman and everything else imaginable. The Trump memes were out of control, but in the best way possible. And in some part, it played its role in getting Trump back in office. Now what we're seeing, we are literally seeing the memes go back to the left, shift back in the left-wing favor. Doug Ford didn't actually post that. Maybe he'll retweet it now. I wouldn't actually be surprised. It's a layup for him as the Ontario premier, now that his lake has technically been renamed. Maybe he'll retweet it even. But Trump now, and I go on to say this on my Twitter because it's true. In 2024, that was essentially what happened. The truth was predominantly the foundation of the establishment conservative right, especially on social values that were increasingly becoming populist talking points. So MAGA came in with a fortress, an army that dismantled and exposed the glass house that the establishment left was residing in. MAGA meme culture exploded in 2024, and as a result of this, there were funny memes ridiculing the left because they were true. But you fast forward to August 2026, and Trump has betrayed MAGA so much and has been so deceptive and ineffective that the meme war is now being lost by MAGA, and they don't even fully realize it. Trump is renaming Lake Ontario to Lake America to try to recapture some of his early 2025 magic for the sake of the midterm elections in the GOP this November. A time when renaming the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America was about owning the helpless, defeated liberals and laughing as they all got triggered over it. Now the memes are all about Lake Michigan becoming Lake Epstein. Trump has turned MAGA into the same glass house he destroyed on the left. This is undeniable. The memes keep rolling, and they're getting funnier on the left. I laughed my ass off today when I was scrolling on X and I saw Lake Epstein. And of course, I'll show it again. I don't even care. Do I even need, just look, the shape of it. What kind of shape is Lake Michigan's shape? I mean, honestly, it's just so good. It's so good, and it's a leftist meme. The reason why the left was so bad in their meme war against MAGA in 2024 was because, like I say in my tweet there on Twitter, where you should absolutely go follow me on, the truth was predominantly on the right-wing side. We know what a woman is. No, actually, we don't believe that a 30-year-old man can chop his cock off and wear women's clothing and all of a sudden he magically becomes a woman. No, we won't actually use those stupid pronouns, she, her, or whatever they want to go by. We know what is reality. We know fact from fiction, or at least most of MAGA did back then. MAGA is now a cult that is deluded and is no longer even in tune with reality, which is why I'm not a part of it. But back then we knew, and the truth was on our side. And so the memes are easy. If you watch a stand-up comedy show, in person or on television, what makes the comedian funny? It's not that the comedian is using, school book jokes. He's not using pickup lines or knock-knock jokes. Comedians don't use those. Comedians are funny because they take a look around at the world that they live in and they see how fucked up it is. And they play into political incorrectness. They look at what you're not allowed to say and they say, well, I'm going to go on stage at this comedy night event and I'm going to say it anyway because it's true. And the combination of shocking truth, the gasp that comes, oh, can he say that? It's so true though. The laughs ensue, they follow. That's what makes a comedian funny. Meme culture, especially on free speech platforms like X, prey off of the same concept, successfully so every single time. So it's a reflection in some ways. Who wins the meme war is a reflection, truthfully, of which side has it figured out, which side is standing more for the truth. And when the truth is no longer on your side, as a result, you wind up seeing the memes working against you. Lake Epstein, why? Why is that funny? Not just because of the shape of Lake Michigan. That's the juvenile humor aspect that, yes, as a guy, yes, I found that funny too. It's funny because this Trump administration has been disgusting about the Epstein files, and they've actively withheld half of those files still, despite the Epstein Files Transparency Act being signed in by Trump himself, and in bipartisan fashion with nearly universal bipartisan support. Only one congressman refused to sign it, or vote in favor of it, I should say. Trump signs it. Only one. And we still don't have the other half, and we're not getting the other half. That's the half with all of the wealthy Jewish names on it, after all. And what we did get was like 70% redacted. So it's tragic and infuriating and frustrating. And now the memes are coming out about it, and it's funny. And it's serving to work against Trump and MAGA. And it's destroying his goal of recapturing his 2024, early 2025 magic that he's desperate to recapture now, since he's made a mess of the entire political system, specifically the Republican Party, waging war for Iran, serving and cucking out to Israel, etc., withholding the Epstein files. He's trying to recapture the magic in a crumbling economy. Midterms are going blue. There's nothing he can do about it. But this is the part of the strategy here, and it's going to fail. Because stuff like this from Trump was always ever just the icing on the cake. When Trump gets in and he talks about making everything more affordable, and he's actively pursuing Antifa, and he's talking about deporting millions upon millions of illegal aliens, and ICE is storming out into the streets and going door to door and dragging out all of the illegal immigrant abuelas and their children and throwing them in vans and deporting them, that's when you come on TV in celebration, and rightfully so. And that's when you say, oh, and by the way, we're deporting all these illegal alien scum, and Mexico's refusing to take them back. We're going to remind Mexico who really owns this Western Hemisphere, bitch. It's the Gulf of America now, motherfucker. And that's when you get the round of applause, because at the time, you see the deportations happening, and Alligator Alcatraz being built, and Mexico desperately trying to resist with their female cunt president. And you say, that's right, that's our Gulf. It doesn't work so much now because Trump betrayed all of that. He's not likable. He's not popular. The youth is no longer with him. The meme makers have left, and the ones that are still around are either back on the left side of the aisle, or they were the ones biding their time waiting to be cool again. And now they have their opportunity. And that's a sign to you. And this is not how people are going to view this, but it's how you should view it. That's a sign to you. I mean, some of these memes, I wanted to show this one too. Another great one right here. This is captioned Trump taking a tour or visit of his new Lake America. I mean, it's great stuff. Wow. It's great stuff, but it's being used against him predominantly. It's a shame. And it's like, the whole thing is Trump could have changed so much. He could have changed so much over the last year and a half, and he betrayed all of it for Israel and for an Iran war, and it's been a disgrace. It's been a disgrace to watch, and the Republican Party, by extension, deserves to lose. And now where we're at is we're at a point in time right now where instead of changing what needed to be fixed, Trump is now changing the names of bodies of water. That's the sad state of MAGA. And the meme culture is reflecting it. It's reflecting the fact that MAGA, like in the title I used on that video I put out just yesterday, Darlene Graham, the perfect reflection of what MAGA now is, old and stupid. And now the meme culture is calling that out too. So that's what I've got to say about all that, though. Appreciate all you guys for being here tonight. Be sure to like the stream if you haven't already. Double tap your phone screens. Hit the thumbs up button. It's free to do, and it does encourage YouTube's algorithm to push this show out to more people who need to see this show. Turn on post notifications and subscribe as well. And I'll take a look at the chats, see if there's anything worth reading in here. Let's see here. Hif, I never know how to say that name, dude. I can't stand your username, bro. But he says, Nero played the fiddle as Rome burned. And then he says, Chump plays golf. Oh, give me a break, though. Listen, I appreciate the sentiment. This is the difference between Democrats, though, obviously, and Republicans. Every president plays golf, bro. Like, come on now. I've never been that kind of it. Let's not, they play golf, okay? Obama played golf. Biden played golf. Like, I'm not going to complain about that one. I'll complain about real things that matter. But Trump playing golf, he can play golf. I'm okay with a president playing golf. Lurley says, as long as you keep calling out Israel, I will stay subscribed. Well, you can unsubscribe anytime you want. I mean, I'm always going to call out Israel, but conditional subscriptions, whatever. He says the word truth is a staple of the marketing class that has been selling us shit forever. Yeah. Dang, dropped a bunt. What's a bunt? What is that? No, I appreciate it though. Yeah, I'm not here to beg for subscriptions. I really actually don't care who subscribes. I obviously ask for them. It does help the channel, but when people unsubscribe, I actually get almost more satisfaction out of that. There's been slow days on my YouTube where I check my studio and my channel's not popping off as much. It ebbs and flows. Views and subscribers and growth ebbs and flows on YouTube. So there are periods of time where it's very clearly ebbing, and I'll go on and check, and it's like, oh, I lost 2 subscribers this morning. I get sick satisfaction out of that. I'm not even gonna lie. It actually makes my day more. I live for the hatred. That's what makes me feel alive. I love the positive chats, almost the same, but actually, this would be so much more boring to me if I couldn't click onto the vertical chat full of the goy scum in it. The horizontal chat where I'm reading from right now, great chat, mostly the smart people. The vertical chat, mostly cattle and swine and everybody beneath me in this world. People who are lucky to be in my vertical chat, they don't even know it. I'm casting such pearls of wisdom to them, and they're swine that don't deserve it. And I'll click on the vertical chat. I'll see the good ones, like Michael Cox. There are good ones in the vertical chat. But I'll click and I'll see some of the hates, like Juan Loguin. This show is trash. Let's hope that the YouTube algorithm doesn't push your show. I love it. I love it. The show is trash, he says, because he's just smart enough to wish he was smarter. Juan Holguin was just smart enough. He was born with a 90 IQ, just smart enough to look at actual smart people like myself and say, I wish I was like that. And you're never going to be. I love it. I get off on it. Female politicians are a failure in America, says Michael Cox. They almost always, literally, actually name one who's successful. That's actually a great point. Name one who has been successful. I mean, the Republicans, they used to worship Condoleezza Rice. Remember that? And let's not forget about Sarah Palin. She was actually kind of funny, though. I halfway like Sarah Palin, but not very politically savvy. Very politically stupid. She may have been smart in some areas, once in a while, but she was very politically stupid. And on the left, of course, I mean, Kamala Harris, absolute dumb bitch. Absolute dumb fat mouth bitch. Basically halfway responsible for the Ukraine war currently. Oh, you know what? Actually, let's be fair here. There are two women in politics currently that I deeply respect. And this will upset Republicans, but it's true. I deeply respect Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton is more of a failure, to be fair. She tried, she failed. And so maybe I shouldn't respect her as much as I think I do. But there's something about Hillary Clinton that just tells me she is actually a smart woman. I don't agree with her on anything. I think she's borderline evil. But I do respect her. Nancy Pelosi, she's the epitome of success. Perhaps not for any of the right reasons. But Nancy Pelosi, when you look at a politician, that is what a politician is. Smart, politically savvy. You know, everything. She takes all of the right opportune times to do everything she knows that is popular. She's made a couple of mistakes throughout her career. She's walking away as like a borderline trillionaire from all of the not insider trading that's been done. Her stock ticker is amazing, and it's going to be a sad day to see that disappear when she retires. She's the only Democrat politician I want to keep office because her stock ticker that tracks her stock market investments has been invaluable to me as a human being. A guaranteed annual 25% return on your investments in the stock market, and all you have to do is follow Nancy Pelosi's investment decisions. When she sells, you sell. When she buys, you buy. Guaranteed to make you rich, and it's a shame she's leaving office because that is going to be sad to have to give that up. But boy, oh boy, if you ever want to see what a real smart, cunning, devious even politician looks like, who plays the game as perfectly as you can as a human, because she has made mistakes, but she plays that game so perfectly. You want to know what it looks like to win as a politician? Look at Nancy Pelosi and the entirety of her career. That is a woman who knows how to play the game. So I do have to say that because it is true. And you have to learn to respect your enemy and even learn from them. And a lot of Republicans should be looking at Nancy Pelosi's career and legacy and her tactics especially, and they should be learning from it. The world hates you, says Thomas Reich. We don't care about, what the fuck do we care if the world hates us, Thomas? Really? The world hates you. What am I supposed to do? Cry about that? Please like us. Oh, won't you please like us? Oh, the world hates us. Say it isn't so. What country are you from? Look at, he's like obsessed with this. The world hates the USA. Dude, we literally don't care. I mean, we kind of care, but, you know, geopolitically, there are issues that I have with how Trump is running things. But at the end of the day, you think that this is going to be a channel just because I criticize Trump's foreign policy all the time on this channel, and I brilliantly have predicted how disastrous this Iran war would be, down to the JCPOA 2.0 signing and ceasefires, predicting ceasefires before they've happened. I've been so accurate in my Iran war assessments, all because I criticized Trump. I became the panikin on the right that they told me not to be, and boom, I'm right. So I have a firm grasp on all of that. And at the end of the day, I'm still not going to cuck out and say, well, we need to make sure that the world really loves us. No. Never. Like any of these other countries are so holy and righteous. Like, what's the standard geopolitically? What country is the standard for countries to maintain their reputation based off of? What country? Europe? Should we be more like Europe? Fake and gay and retarded? With increased immigration coming in? We don't want to be like Europe. She's a crook, says Kenneth, whatever your name is. Yeah, you could argue Nancy Pelosi is a crook. Yes. You know who else were crooks? Mobsters. The mafia was filled with criminals. And they're really fucking cool. And they were really fucking smart. And they were really fucking powerful. And people are obsessed with that culture. And they love learning and watching it. The Sopranos are iconic. I'm not saying I even like Nancy Pelosi. It's not even like the mafia. I like the mafia. I don't agree with anything that they stood for, but boy, I'll watch any documentary about Lucky Luciano or the Lucchese crime family. I'll watch all of those. Fascinating times. Fascinating. Doesn't mean I agree with the lifestyle at all. It's not a good lifestyle, and it was bad. Morally bad. But guess what? They were really successful for decades. That's my point with Nancy Pelosi. Learn from them. Learn from them. She is successful. You think Mike Johnson will ever be remembered to the same degree Nancy Pelosi will be? The answer is no, for a good reason. And the Republicans need to adopt a better quality candidate. I mean, truthfully, they need better quality politicians. They need a better quality mindset. They need a winning mindset. And that's what the Democrats have always had, not the Republicans. This dude thinks Hollywood is real life. Well, Tony Soprano was a real mobster. Tony Soprano was real. The Sopranos is a TV show, dumbass. I know, motherfucker. That's why I said the Lucchese crime family. Do you even know about Lucky Luciano, the Lucchese crime family? You even know the Gambinos, any of that? Idiot. He thinks I'm naming off mafia factions from the Sopranos. Sherry Ham says, I've got to go, but thanks. Well, you're welcome. Be sure to subscribe and come back tomorrow when I go live again. Hey, Selena Girl. Selena Girl, good to see you in the chat. Pelosi's pop was mafia. Wouldn't surprise me. Corgi 2016 says, socialist policies like the ones that Republican Roosevelt espoused would do us well. You're talking about Teddy, obviously. You know, I have been looking into that a lot, and I'm sort of preparing to have a conversation about that. How do we bring America back from the brink? And it is interesting, and I'm not a socialist. But yes, I've been looking into, really, you have to look into what created the baby boom. What really set up the baby boom? And it is interesting that you bring that up. I don't think there really is any perfect answer or solution, though. But all right. Clinton is not left-wing, says Sekway. Okay, well, that's just retarded. They may not feel like left-wing nowadays, but in the 1990s, they were left-wing. JFK would have been a Republican nowadays. That's how far the left has shifted. JFK would have literally been a Republican. He gave speeches about how America was conquered Liberals, which they can't even, like, liberals can't even utter those words. How dare you actually say that, even though it's completely true, because Europeans are literally conquerors and colonizers, and we're a blessing on them to all of the lands that we do that on, by the way. We create first world countries. That's what Europeans do, and I'm proud to say that as a German and as an Irish man and British man. And JFK acknowledged that when he was talking about space. America was conquered, and so will space. He was a Republican, but if you go back and listen, you hear the reasons why he was a Democrat. He talked about housing legislation and the slums, and there's too many. But by the way, again, even that, more Republican than liberal. There are too many slums, he says. Where's that candidate? We don't even get that from Republicans nowadays. JFK was right then, and he'd be even more right now. There are too many slums. We need to create a party like the rent was too damn high. We need another political party. It should be the party that is the there are too many slums party. Because there really are, and they're unsightly and disgusting. But yeah, he wanted the housing legislation. That was the Democrat side of him. He talked about housing legislation. You look into what that is, it's like, oh, that's what made him a Democrat. But nowadays, for everything JFK stood for, Republican all the way. It wouldn't even be close. It's why literally RFK became a Republican. The left has left behind, literally, all of the actual sane candidates. Yeah, see, here's the people that are just, this is the problem, actually, with just the low IQ scum, like Rapture Ready. You must be sick groveling over Pizzagate and Nancy Pelosi. I prefer people like Alex Jones, who calls out the scum. Well, go watch Alex Jones then. Oh, wait, you can't. Well, you kind of can if you know where to look for him, I guess. I love Alex Jones, by the way. I've been watching him for years. I've been watching him since I was a teenager. Yeah, here's the problem, though. That's just, these are the low IQ people. And they're the reason why the Republican Party can't thrive. Rapture Ready probably has an 85 IQ, the equivalent of a dog. You are only useful to us if you have a handler who tells you what is the right thing to do and what isn't, who to vote for and who not to. You have no long-term thinking capabilities. You're not a strategist like I am. You're not brilliant like I am. You're inferior to me in every way. And so you're not understanding my point in bringing up Nancy Pelosi as a wise and shrewd politician and woman. I'm not singing her praises. I'm not saying she's a good person. I'm looking at the body of her entire political career, of which she has managed to hold on to for decades. And I'm looking at her strategies, and I'm looking at what she's done, and I'm saying, that is how you play the game, and Republicans could definitely learn a thing or two from her when it comes to, winning and not being beautiful losers. We need to get him into office. Who? Who are you talking about? And get a little experience under his belt so he can get in that line. Are you talking about Fishback? I agree. If you're talking about Fishback, Cooper. All right. Let's see. Anything else? Anything else in the Goyim chats? Anything? You guys are boring, honestly. Like, it's a good thing you have me to watch, because if I had to watch any of you, I'd probably just delete my YouTube app. You guys are so boring and predictable and stupid. That's why I have this warning. This was created for moments like this. well, I'm going to leave it there. Appreciate all you guys for being here. As always, like the stream, like I said, double tap your phone screens, hit the thumbs up button. It's free to do. There's no excuse for you to not do it. You fat, lazy scum goyim. Move your fat fucking thumbs over your phone screen and double tap it. Or look for the thumbs up button and tap on that as well. You really have no excuse not to, and it does support the channel immensely by doing so. It signals to the YouTube algorithm to push the show out to more people who are as stupid as you are, or perhaps even dumber, and therefore desperately need to see the content that I'm putting out here on YouTube. Also, if you're feeling particularly inspired after a speech like that, be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you can keep coming back and getting an excellent education on the world and how it works, and on our American political system and geopolitics alike. Share this channel even with your even dumber friends who are also in desperate need. And maybe one day you can sound as smart as I do. But other than that, appreciate all you guys for being here. As always, glory to America, the best country on earth by far, and it's not even close. We will restore this nation to glory. God bless the USA, and God bless some of you. God bless some of you, the smart ones. God bless some of you. Have a great rest of your evening. I'll be back here live, most likely tomorrow. Take care.
There are too many minorities. Too many at my water park. Somebody do something. Where did they all come from? Why can't they leave this land alone? And it's such a tragedy. Feel bad like dying. We look the other way too long. We've got to change our priorities and get all these minorities out of my water park.